Hey everyone, this is Computer here. This video is going to cover why win rates don't mean as much as you would believe, and how these base calculations can be a little misplaced. The reason I'm making this video is due to a friend who only plays high win rate champions and simply doesn't win that many games with them. He normally gives up after 1 or 2 games when what he thought was a high win rate OP champion, and this isn't always the case. So I want to cover win rates on their base. Let's go to LOL King for this. A really good site and I'm not dissing it. I'm just going to mention how it's calculated. It has a percentage win rate for all champions, as you can see on this bracket. So first up, the win rate and how it's generated. Number 1, the data is averages from all regions and players, the absolute averages. Number 2, every elo bracket is included. Now from these basic parameters, we see a couple of issues. All players and regions. In some regions they play different metas, which means a champion can be stronger and or weaker. Additionally, bronze players utilizing, let's say, Zed will have nowhere near as much of effect or a win rate as a bronze player using Annie. The win rate versus simplicity based calculation is pretty important, and in every elo we're coming from some champions who'll win more or lose more depending upon that skill level. So basically in the very high level of play, Zed has a harder time doing things in general because players know how to counter him, whereas in low level, if you've played a good couple of games, you may have a slightly higher win rate. Basically the win rate is variant upon your elo and how well individuals play, which some champions are just harder to obtain skill level, which means that it's skewed. Zed is a very strong champion. Most people can't play even a half decent Zed, which means his win rate is relatively low compared to what it can be. Another issue is the fact that it's just a basic calculation of all games and a win-loss ratio. This can make it hard to understand just how strong a champion is. Some champions are as simple as they would seem or take longer time to get a good win rate. This is my main issue with the base percentage win rate. It's just not indicative of how good or bad a champion is. To show this off, you can look in the LOL King show performance and loyalty stat. This will calculate how much percentage win rate a champion has over how many games they've played. This is the true representation of how strong a champion can be. Okay, for this, let's be really fair. Let's look at the current lowest win rate champion in the game. The lowest win rate average champion in the game. This is the worst statistical champion you can play to win a game on average. Ryze. As of the recording date, he has a 42.5% win rate. This is disgustingly low. The lowest. Does this mean that Ryze needs buffed? Why aren't Riot buffing him immediately? Well, there's a reason for this. It's because his win rate is not as low as it would seem. The reason why they're not buffing him immediately is because of his chart of performance and loyalty. The reason why they changed old Ryze was because high-level players, even though he's still a low win rate back then, were abusing him because of his performance and loyalty ratio. So looking at this chart, we see one thing. The red bar steeps up quickly. The red bar is basically the dedication of how many games a player will stick with Ryze. So for his first average game on Ryze, he has a 29.33% chance of winning. Yes, on average, your first game on Ryze, you should win at about 29.33% of the time. 44.17% of people play only one game in Ryze and quit him, and that's not surprising considering how little you'd probably done in your first game. For your second game, you have a 36.78% chance of winning. That's a pretty big increase. Only 17.87% of people play Ryze and quit him at this point. They just don't see the dedication paying off. Now, in your third to fifth game in Ryze, you have a 41.98% chance of winning. Only 20.09% of people will stick to Ryze and playing this long. Okay, now moving on to the last bar, you get the concept. If you played 101 plus games on Ryze, you have an average of winning a game 57.25% chance of the time. 57.2% of the time, you're gonna win the game. This is actually higher than the highest average win rate in League of Legends, which is held currently by Amumu with his 54.2% chance of victory. Ryze has a 57.25% chance of winning if you played him a lot. A mere 0.33% of people who've played Ryze have played him and reaped the rewards of this win rate. Now, a lot of you will be saying, well, yeah, you play a lot of champion, you get better. That's entirely my point. Yes, this is true, but mastering a champion by playing this many games shows their true potential. This score, to me, shows the true potential of champions. This is the reason why the professionals did play Ryze and dominated on him, even though he had a really low win rate. He was a secret OP for about 4 or 5 months, and people kept on trying to pick him up. The reason why he didn't go mainstream is because he's hard to use. He's not easy to use. Yeah, the old Ryze was really difficult to use. You had to know the perfect combinations. You had to theory craft it. You had to find out. He was annoying during lane. You had to CS perfectly. It was hard to do. He had such a steep learning curve that even though his win rate was off the charts, if you played him enough, people just weren't dedicated enough. It just wasn't enough for them. They wanted raw, abusable champions. This, I feel, is probably one of the best examples to show how a skill cap-based champion win rate is always so low, and why people always should not just pick on this assumption. Picking a champion on the average win rate isn't the most effective thing to do. But in saying that, I'm going to be fair, and it will give you a good average if the win rate's high. This champion, if their average win rate is high, is generally more powerful and easier to pick up or abusable in some way. This is the only valid point I see in win rates. If you're looking for a good way to pick up an immediately powerful champion or an immediately abusable champion, pick these champions up. Look at the average win rate. They're strong in general, they're easy to play, they're going to do well. Usually they're indicative of overpowered champions that just have too much strength for how simple they are to use. That's generally how it works. So if you're playing especially low elo, this is a very good strategy. It's a very good thing to do. You're going to find the ridiculously powerful and easy champions. That's the most thing you're looking for. It's the only valid point I see. It's a good way to pick up these champions. Now, although in the end, you have to remember, you're going to get the immediate victory, but in the end, someone who's truly mastered some of the more technical based champions, or just certain on the individual champions you haven't even noticed, will have higher win rates. So you're going to get the immediate high win rate, but it's going to taper off at the end. So for example, Amumu. Amumu's got the highest base win rate in the game. It's 54.2% on average. With 101 games of experience, you only gain 1.83% extra win rate. This is to get to 56.03% of a win rate. To get to 55.46% chance of winning. So if you played over 101 games, you go from 54.2 to 56.03% of a win rate. That's pretty pathetic, considering how many games you played. If you compare this to Ryze, who gains 14.75% win rate over his games as experience, we see a very good comparison, and his end win rate is a lot higher than Amumu. And that's me with the most favourable example I can think of. Amumu, the highest win rate, basic win rate champion, versus the lowest win rate. If you look at around the 50% mark, let's say for example a Syndra. Syndra starts off with a 49% win rate, which is below average in general, but if you look at her over 101 games, it goes up to 56.26% of win rate, which is massive. It's a really high win rate, which basically shows you the more you play a champion, even though they've got a low win rate, they can potentially go, once again, past the highest win rate in the game, assuming you play them enough. So in summary, win rates are good for picking basically easily obtained strong champions, or noticing who's OP in the current massive win rate. But when it comes to finding the true highest win rate, looking at experience and loyalty chart is the easiest way to get the highest win rates in the game. So if you want quick elo, you want quick simple champions, especially lower elo people out there, look for the average win rate, pick those champions up. If not though, when you're looking for a true main that will get you eventually to, let's say, master or challenger, look for the win rates with performance and loyalty. If you look at these and find a champion that is just, usually it's just the more technical based champions. If you main these, in the end you'll get more elo, so you're going to lose at the start. So it's whether you want to gain elo short term or be an extremely high win rate based champion in the end. This is the reason why One Tricks just wins so many games, because nobody can touch them with the level of experience they've obtained with their champion. And that's it for the video, guys. Just a little interesting one I thought I'd make out. I wrote this down quite a long time ago. One of my friends, he has recently stopped doing this, thankfully. But I did have to explain this to him, and while I was explaining, I thought, hey, this is a pretty good video idea, because he really didn't understand the concept. He was like, oh, but they're really strong. And I said, yeah, they are strong, but there's a reason for it. And when I was going through it, I just thought some of these guys might be interested in it, because I know a lot of people play off win rates, and I hope that I'm not annoying any of these guys. I understand that win rates do mean a champion is more in general strong, but I just want to show you the other end of the spectrum, so you're not ignorantly going in and picking just one basic champion you think is OP. And that's it for the video, guys. If you like it, like it, dislike it, dislike it. If you like the content, you can subscribe. And if you think it's horrible and total garbage and I've totally dropped the ball and I'm totally wrong, you can unsub with Totally Fair. Beyond that, guys, have a great day. Best of luck on the Rift, and I'll see you guys next time. Take it easy.